So in this video, we are talking to portfolio prep students actually for the spring of 2017. And we are talking about creating business cards and then having them several up on a page so we can print them. So first things first, I am going to create a new document. I do turn off facing pages. And my standard business card size is going to be 2 inches by 3.5 inches. You can go vertical or horizontal. Let's just say in this case I wanted to go landscape. I'm going to increase my, or decrease my margin rather. That's way too big of a margin. And I am going to go ahead and make my bleed 1/8 of an inch, which is equivalent to 0.9. That's the little red line. The white area indicates the actual printable area. The pink is just letting you know, hey, don't put your small text past this line, okay? So I'm going to hit OK and zoom out just a bit. Thank you for the sound effects. And I'm going to add a second page because I'm going to do a front and back business card. Now, mine is not going to be nearly as awesome as yours. Now, I'm going to go ahead and have a bleed with, maybe mine's got a little bleed that goes on top and bottom. I have a little bit of black just to ground the piece. Maybe I'll do this both on the front and back of the business card. But you'll notice I'm pulling it to the red line because the red line is the bleed. I'm going to also do this on page 1. So let me copy it and paste it in place. Now I am going to label this front card, and I'm going to label the back card. So that way we know when we're printing this whether it's printing upside down. We don't want things printing upside down. So this is the back of the card. Okay, now if I were not in a text box, which right now I'm not, I've got the selection tool selected, I hit the W key. W, if you think about it, what you see is what you get, and what you see is what you get. It starts with a W. So this would be what I would get when I'm printing. This is what I get, which shows bleeds and margins and things like that. But this is what it's going to look like when it prints. Now, I'm not going to print this right now because I want to maximize the use of a 12 by 18 inch 120-pound stock sheet, and I'm going to put these up a whole bunch all at one time. Now, the only bad thing is I do need to manufacture what are called crop marks because I'll need to transfer those to that 12 by 18 sheet. If I were to transfer these over without crop marks and then tell it to turn crop marks on, it will only put crop marks in the outer corners of the document, not of every little business card. So I will only have 4 sets of crop marks. And if I've got 20 cards up, I need 20 sets of crop marks. So in this case, I'm going to zoom into a corner. I'm actually going to turn off for just a moment this layer so I can see and create a new layer. Call it crop marks. And crop marks typically, what they do is they line up to the edge of the page. So you'll notice how I'm drawing from the edge of the page up. They don't need to be real long. I'll just make it a 1/8 of an inch. They typically are black and they are normally 1/2 point. Now what you want to do is once you have that aligned and drawn, you can bring it up to the exterior edge of the bleed line. That is proper. I'm going to draw another crop mark here, set it at 1/2 point, and move it over so it touches the bleed line but outside of the bleed. So there they are. Now I'm going to group these, and I'm going to copy them and paste them and rotate them to every corner of my card. So let me paste it. Actually, you know what? I'm going to try to be a little bit more efficient. Sorry. I was working on PC and I'm doing PC shortcuts. So give me a second to get used to being back on my Mac. Pull that down to, I don't know, right about there. And I'm going to flip it around. Bing. Is it in the right position? No, I went too far. So I'm just going to pull it back up. I always zoom way in when I'm dealing with these crop marks. If you're zoomed out, you will not be accurate. So you want to keep that in mind. Always zoom in when you're dealing with this stuff. Oops. Now I'm going to grab all of these crop marks that I've already created. So far I have 4 of them. And I'm going to copy those to the other side. And how I do that is I start dragging it out, hold down the Alt key for copy and Shift key to keep it in place. I'm going to pop it over here. And then I'm going to mirror it. And they're done. So that was pretty easy. They should be in place. Pretty darn close. Close enough, because that's really close. Now, normally I would put these on the master pages, but since I need to have these loose and, let me group these, loose and able to copy to a new document, I did not put them on the master pages, because then I'd have to take the time to release them. So I'm going to copy these, and I'm going to go to the second page, and I'm going to go to Edit and Paste in Place so they're all in the same position. I'm going to go back to my layers, and I'm going to turn on my design, which obviously is award-winning. Best business card you've ever seen, right? You can't see the crop marks when I hit W because this would be, you know, what you see is what you get when you cut things down to the right size, but they're there. Now, I'm going to save this document as business card 1-up because there's only one business card. Even though it's front and back, there's one. So, assuming, there we go, business card 1-up. Now I'm going to create a new document because I'm going to paste this several up on this document. Now this new document, because I'm using 12 by 18 paper, I am going to choose Tabloid Extra, but it's not in here, so I'm just going to specify the width is 12 inches and the height is 18 inches. It automatically converts to picas. As far as the margin goes, I don't need a 3 pica margin, really a 0.25 IN, quarter inch. We know that this can't print edge to edge, so I'm just putting a little 1/4 inch margin so I know not to take anything past that pink because it won't print to the edge anyway. And I want to turn facing pages off normally. If you don't, it's not that big of a deal, but I'm going to turn those off. And I'm going to hit OK. Now I'm going to create 2 layers. One will be a front card, and one will be back of card. I'll also have 2 different pages. So I'm going to go ahead and add another page while I'm thinking about it. And I want to make sure I'm on my front card layer. You don't have to use layers, it's just nicer if you do. Then I'm going to zoom into the upper left corner. I'm going to go back to my business card front, and I'm going to grab everything including the crop marks. I could group this to make sure everything's all stuck together. And then I'm going to paste it here. I don't paste in place because it's a different layout. So I'm just going to paste it. Oops, where'd everything go? Pardon me. Let's see what happened here. Oh, because these are 2 different layers, I need to make sure I get everything from both layers. So these are 2 different layers. Hello, layer 1. All right, what's going on here? Should have worked. Let's copy it. Now, something this simple certainly should work, right? Here, paste it. There we go. Now, for now, I'm just going to park it up here in the corner. I'll deal with its position as far as making sure it's centered with the other ones later. Now, when you have a card like this where you have the same color bleed in the same position, I could just copy and paste this right next to itself and overlap so that the crop mark here aligns with the next one. If the color changed, like if this went from black to white, as a gradient, I would have to move it off a little bit. So I'm going to cover both of those. If your bleed is exactly the same color and position on the top and the bottom like this, you can just simply go to Object, Transform, and move it. We know this card is 3.5 inches wide, so we can move it 3.5 inches to the right. So on the horizontal move, I'm going to put 3.5 IN. I'm going to hit the preview. You can see what it's doing. I'm going to hit Copy. So we will see that when we zoom in, this actually is 2 crop marks stacked on top of each other. Now by doing that, I don't have to cut this card 2 different times. You know, like I want to minimize my cutting. So again, that was Object, Transform, move it 3.5 inches, and hit Copy. Now, in order to do that again, all I have to do is go to Object, Transform again, and choose Command Option 4 as my keyboard shortcut, and it'll do it. Now, if you have a bleed that is a different color from left to right, so let me give you an example. I'll make this a gradient so we can see, oops, not the stroke. I hate when that happens. Make this a gradient, and we'll make this also a gradient. So in something like this, the bleed on the left is a different color than the bleed on the right. So in this case, we would pretend those aren't there for just a moment. We would paste it. We would drag it over to the edge. And instead of moving it 3.5 inches, we have to move it far enough so that this edge of this bleed stops at the beginning of the next bleed. So we're going to add, let's see, it's 3.5 inches wide, plus we know the bleeds an 1/8 inch here and an 1/8 inch there. So 3.5 plus 1/8 plus 1/8. So 3.5 plus 1/4. So I'm going to move this 3.5 plus 1/4. So I'm going to go to Object, Transform, and Move. And if you're not certain what that is, sometimes I'll go 3.5 inches over plus 0.25 IN. Make sure I put IN in there because this is in picas possibly. And it will actually do the little bits of math for me. It's kind of nice. And I'm going to hit preview, and we'll see that right in here where one ends, the other one's going to begin. So I hit copy. In this case, we have 2 sets of crop marks here and here. Plus there's one right here, and that's fine because we're going to cut that. But we'll cut this edge for this card and this edge for the next card. Okay, so if you have bleeds that are a different color, different texture, different whatever, you have to do it this way. So once I've moved that over, I can go to Object, Transform again. Oops, excuse me. Make sure he's selected. Transform sequence again, and it pops it over there. How handy is that? It's like you don't have to do your math. Now I will group these just as I would group the ones up here. And now we're ready to, I'm going to do like the bottom half will be that style and the top half will be this style. Now with this style, what we want to do is we want to go ahead and center these to the page. So we need to find the align area now, or transform or whatever. It's not on mine up here. Yours might have it, but in order to find that, I'm going to go to Window, Object and Layout, and there's Align. And this little guy comes up. And before I start telling it to align center here and here, well, this would be just center this way. Even if I do it, nothing's happening. It's not moving center of the page. You have to say Align to, and then you click on that. Align to page, please. And now as soon as I hit center, it centers it perfectly on the page. It is important that you get stuff perfectly centered on the page because when you're doing front to back printing, if you don't center it, whatever you print on the other side will be shifted quite a bit. So we want to center this. Now, we're going to move this card down. Since I have the same color bleed on top and bottom, I can actually mash them together. So I'm going to move it down. So I'm going to go to Object, Transform, and Move. And instead of a horizontal move, I'm going to do a vertical move. This card is 2 inches tall. So I'm going to move it 2 inches down. And I'm going to hit Copy. These, again, share this crop mark. You will see that if I move it, that crop mark is laying on top of the other. And the only reason why I can do that is they share common colors for bleeds. Now, when I moved that, let me do that again. Object, Transform, Move. And let me preview it. And I hit Copy. After I do that, I can hold down Alt Command 4 and it will keep copying and pasting as many times as I want. So you only have to do that move thing once and then it will remember and you just do that keyboard shortcut. Now, if you're with bleeds that are not identical, now I'm going to do some non-identicals down here for just a second. Maybe this bleed here goes the opposite direction. Instead of white to black, it goes black to white. So let me modify that real quick. Excuse me. Oh, jeez, I'm getting click happy here. Let me flip this one and let me flip this one. So they're going opposite direction of the one above it. So this could be a photo, this could be a color, it could be anything really. It's just that we have difference. That's really what this is more about. Okay, first I'm going to group these guys and I'm going to center align them to the spread, make sure that's, or to the page, which they already are. And then I'm going to move them up a little bit. I'm not paying attention to the ones up here because they're different. Now, I'm going to move these down, and I'm going to have to move them down 2 inches plus the 1/8 of an inch bleed for each of them. So that's 2 inches plus 1/4. So I'm going to go to Object, Transform, and Move. And we know that is going to be 2.25 IN. That's 2 1/4. I'm going to preview it, hit Copy, and here we will see that we don't have our crop marks overlapping. We'll have to cut this here and this here. We want that because the bleed is so different. When you have different bleeds, you have to do that. Now, in order to get that to move down again, I just hit Alt or Option Command 4, and I can do that all day long. It's pretty nice that you can do that. Now I'm going to get rid of that last one because he's going off the page. Now, I typically will group these. I'll group everything, actually. Let's say I group everybody. Not only do I center it on the horizontal center, I'll also align it to vertical center on the page. And then I will go to the next back side, pretend this is the back. Oops. I would do exactly the same stuff. Copy, paste, get them exactly in the same position. Normally I do the thing where I copy the back, but I don't have a lot of time for that, so I'm just going to fake it right now. So I'm going to put paste in place. And what I'm going to do now, just so we know what the back is, it's going to take me a minute, but I'm just going to say this is back. Oops, no, that's not what I want. There. That's the French version. And I'm just going to paste all this in here. This is going to take me a while. Probably would have just been easier for me to rebuild it, but you get the idea. This is so when I print it, I know what in the world I'm looking at and know which one's the front and the back. On your business card, it's going to be easier to tell, but mine is so generic that I can't tell. This is like watching paint dry, isn't it? I could do, if I did a find and replace on just this page, that might go really fast. I think it could do it per page. I don't know if you've ever tried that feature. It's really nice. By the time I finally get up there to do it, I'll be done. Okay, I'm done. So this all says back a card, and the other one says front a card. So let me save this. And how many do I have up? 1, 2, 3 times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So in this case, I have 3 times 7. I've got 21 cards. That's right. 3 times 7 is 21. So I'm going to call this file save as business card 21 up. And I might even say 12 by 18 if that helps me understand. 20 up cards, 21 cards up on a 12 by 18. If you guys don't name your stuff well, you have a hell of a time finding it, and you spend more time trying to look for stuff than you actually do trying to print it. So name things appropriately. Now, so I have a front page and a back page, and I know they look the same, but they're actually different. Now I'm ready to print this. And it's going to go on 12 by 18 stock. We're printing to the 328 laser right now. I'm going to go to Setup and choose Tabloid Oversize. That's 12 by 18. Now, if I want to, I can hit Cancel, right-click on the rulers, and make those inches, and you'll see just when I go to print that indeed 12 by 18 is, there it is, 12 by 18, Tabloid Extra. For the page position, anytime you're printing front to back, you always want that to be centered. Just flat out centered. No horizontal, vertical, just centered. Otherwise, it won't line up. Marks and bleeds. Well, we made our own crop marks, and we already set our own manual bleed, so we don't have to worry about that. And if we did turn on crop marks, it would only put them in the 4 corners of this page, not on every card, so that's useless. Now I go to Printer, and I am going to set up the paper type. So I am going to go to Layout and Xerox Features. and I am going to choose the type as heavyweight cardstock because this is a 120-pound cover paper. And it will automatically default to one-sided printing because we have to manually feed it in after we print. It does not automatically print double-sided on heavy cardstock. I'm going to hit print, and I'm going to hit print again. Now when it comes through the printer, first I've got to put this in the printer. When it comes through the printer, because this is a vertical layout, I know we've learned that on pages that are horizontal, we flip from left to right when it comes out of the printer and make sure that the print side is up. But if it's, so that's for pages that go landscape. But this is a portrait page. So when this comes out of the printer, we're going to flip it head to foot. Otherwise, it won't print right on the other side. It'll print upside down. And let me set up my printer. Make it heavyweight cardstock over here. Make it tabloid. Or, tabloid oversized. How exciting. It's not asking me what kind of paper I put in there. If that's the case, I may have to restart this printer because it will never print. Alright, so on our Xerox Phaser 7800s, there's a little bit of a glitch in the motherboard. When you put your own custom paper in there, if it doesn't ask you what size and everything is in that tray, that means it will not print for anyone. That means the motherboard glitch has kicked in. So in that case, what we would do is we shut down the printer because it's not coming up here going, hey, what kind of paper did you put in here? Even if I open drawer 2, which usually has 8.5 by 11, and close it, it should prompt it to ask us what kind of paper's in here. And it's not doing that. So the motherboard is a little glitchy. It needs reset. I shut this down using the power key or power button here in the front lower right corner. I wait for it to shut down all the way. I unplug it from the back of the machine, which is the lower back right corner. I don't unplug it from the wall because I can't reach it. It can unplug from the machine. When you unplug it, it resets the motherboard. I replug it back in, turn it on, and this will be fine. A lot of process for this, but it's better than have to run all the way down to 341. I know it takes time to shut down and restart, but it doesn't take as long as you think. So I'm going to unplug it. This is a little hefty. I know Hope, you had to do this last week. And so she's kind of an expert at it already. I plugged it back in, I turn it back on, I wait for it to warm up. When it warms up, I'll stick this paper, this real heavy 120-pound cardstock in there, and it'll say, hey, what kind of paper did you put in there? And then I tell it, 120 or heavyweight cardstock, 12 by 18. So that print that I just paid for, gone. Even though I told it, hey, yes, print it, accept the charges. When it does this, you eat that print, which sucks, and you just have to reboot this thing. Now the bad thing is if you told it to print 10 copies and it's doing this, it ate up 10 copies worth of your money, and that really bites. So I'm going to give this a couple seconds to get back going. And I'll show you the differences. I'll also cover physically, how to cut these things out, because a lot of people get confused when they're cutting these things out and create more issues for themselves than what they need to. So I'll show that. I'm going to stop the recording because it can't record me cutting stuff. So let me stop this, and we'll move on to printing and cutting it out because I've already done the printing thing.